They called them birds at first because it sounded harmless, a flock drifting over the grey earth, wings humming, eyes sharp, pecking at steel. But the first time a Russian column vanished beneath a cloud of quadcopters, everyone understood. These weren't birds, they were a doctrine. The Ukrainian unit known as Madyar's birds had turned a hobbyist toy into a battlefield symphony. Cheap plastic frames, improvised warheads, and a killchain so fast it looked like a magic trick. Somewhere between the whine of rotors and the snap of impact, the rules of ground war changed. Imagine trenches that don't sleep. Imagine a front line where a scout drone finds you, an FPV slams into your turret 30 seconds later, and a third machine is already loitering overhead to catch anyone who tries to drag you out. Now imagine all of that being run like a tech startup. Metrics, iteration, and a ruthless focus on results. That is the genius here. It is not simply that Ukraine embraced drones. It's that one unit in particular showed what happens when a battlefield becomes an operating system. To understand this revolution, start with the man behind the flock. Robert Brovdy, callsign Madyar, is a Ukrainian officer from Zakarpattia who built a volunteer drone detachment into the country's most famous strike UAV outfit. He's part entrepreneur, part field commander, the guy who looked at a box of civilian quadcopters and saw a way to give infantry superpowers. Over time, his birds of Madyar became a formal strike formation, a brand, and a blueprint that other units copied in pieces. In 2025, Kyiv tapped him to lead an entirely new branch, the Unmanned Systems Forces, basically putting the Birdman in charge of Ukraine's national drone fight. If you want to know where the world's new doctrine is being written, it's wherever his pilots plug in their goggles. Here's the core idea dressed down. Compress, find, fix, finish until it happens faster than a human can move a mortar tube. The birds pair cheap scouts with kamikaze FPVs, run them in small, semi-autonomous teams, and stitch the feeds into a kill chain that operates like a conveyor belt. One pilot spots, another primes, a third launches. The whole decision layer is prepped with thermal signatures, target catalogs, and preloaded waypoints. So the moment a vehicle is identified, the finishing drone is already arcing in. Infantry used to fear the sky when fast mover jets screamed overhead. Now they fear the whisper of a $500 quad. If you're enjoying this video, hit that like and subscribe button right now. Speed is the oxygen of this system, but what makes it breathe is discipline. The kind of discipline you get when you measure everything. Inside the birds, every strike is logged, verified by video, scored for damage, and fed back into training. That logic bled into the national program. Ukraine formalized a points-based reward scheme for drone units, tying equipment and bonuses to verified kills.
The country is using a video game-style drone reward system in the war.
It sounds like a video game because it borrows the feedback loop of one, but its effect is brutally real. Units that strike more get better gear faster, and the kill rate climbs. The policy has spread across the force, with leadership citing hundreds of thousands of drone strikes tallied in 2025, and formal bonuses pegged to confirmed results. So what is the genius? It's not a single gizmo, it's a stack. Start with hardware minimalism. Madyar's crews accept the limits of cheap airframes, and then route around them. Russian jammers are fierce, line-of-sight kills video at 10 to 15 kilometers, so the birds raise the radio horizon. They sling airborne repeaters under balloons, mount relay antennas on mothership drones, and use the terrain like a signal lens. You'll spot a repeater lofted on a tether one day, and the next it's a big fixed-wing carrier droning high overhead, quietly extending FPV reach by dozens of kilometers. None of this is glamorous, more kite festival than Top Gun, but it's how a $500 quad hits a $5 million launcher. Then comes modular lethality. Early in the war, the birds pioneered tidy ways to bolt PG-7 or shape-charge cones onto quad frames without torquing the flight profile into a brick. Out of that came a menu: anti-armor heads for turrets and engine decks, fragmentation cups for trench lines, EFPs for roof penetrations, even specialized payloads engineered to bite through reactive tiles before the main jet arrives. That cafeteria of warheads means an operator can treat a battlefield like an order screen. Pick a target category, select a fuse, press launch. Layer 3 is the mesh brain. The birds didn't wait for perfect comms. They made their own. Pre-briefed target boxes, cached imagery, and map annotations cut away precious seconds once a contact appears. Video is nice, telemetry is better, and coordinates are best, especially when every second you loiter is an invitation to an EW ambush. The result is a kind of muscle memory for the unit. The moment a Russian IFV pops into frame, the next FPV is already 2/3 through its dive profile. That's why convoys that used to survive the first strike now lose the second, third, and fourth vehicle before a human staff officer can type smokescreen. And finally, there's culture. The birds act like a startup because the battlefield rewards startups. Iterate, ship, learn, repeat. Madyar has been famous for narrating his unit's strike videos with gallows humor, but behind the jokes is a relentless product manager's mentality. If a tactic works, clone it. If a shape flies better, print it. If a pilot nails a new maneuver, make it Doctrine by dinner. Creativity is contagious. When one bird pilot used an FPV to shepherd a panicked Russian straight through the wire to Ukrainian positions, think of a metal hornet guiding a human like a dog on a leash. The clip went viral not because it was macabre, but because it demonstrated control. Drones don't just kill, they can corral. They can command behavior. And once you see that, you start rethinking every task we once assigned to a rifle squad. The strategy scaled. By mid-2025, Kyiv didn't just have units employing birds-like tactics, it had an entire branch dedicated to spreading them. Madyar's appointment to lead that branch wasn't ceremonial. He immediately set targets, pushed reform, and talked openly about building a kill zone in front of Ukrainian lines. An unmanned belt where movement equals death. The idea matured into a formal program called the Drone Line. Integrate reconnaissance and strike UAVs, build a 10 to 15 kilometer deep unmanned buffer, and smother assaults before they reach Ukrainian trenches. Concept to policy in months, policy to practice in weeks. That's startup speed applied to war. What does a kill zone look like when it's working? Doctors tell the tale. Medics who once drove to the front now talk about evacuation points, hopping backward again and again because quadcopters make roads unpassable and armor a coffin. The sky became a sieve that catches not just tanks, but ambulances. If you sense a grim efficiency in that description, you're right. That's the point of an unmanned belt. To make an advance cost so much blood per meter that an enemy stalls from mathematics alone. Meanwhile, the production base went from ad hoc to industrial. In 2025, Ukraine surged domestic FPV output into the millions, buying local not just to skirt export restrictions, but to iterate faster than an enemy can copy. Think of it as a national app store for killing machines. 96% of the FPVs rolling to the front were made in country, and the plan for 2026 was to triple orders again. You can scoff at plastic frames and printed fins, but the exchange rate here is the story. A $1,000 drone deleting a $1 million vehicle is the kind of math generals lose wars to. The birds also kept refining the last 100 meters, the most intimate, terrifying distance in war. Conventional wisdom says you strike deep, hit ammo parks, smash bridges, erase artillery. But Madyar's team started bragging politely about how much killing they did practically under our feet, blasting assault groups so close to Ukrainian lines that you could smell the cordite. That's not a flex for social media, it reflects a tactical pivot. When pressure rose on key sectors and infantry needed immediate overwatch, drone teams slid forward and fought at knife range. trading range for responsiveness. The paradox is simple. Sometimes the best air support is the one buzzing a minute away, not a missile 30 miles out. If all this sounds rosy, it isn't. The Russians adapted. They built their own drone carriers, fixed-wing motherships that haul FPVs deep and drop them like evil matryoshkas. They fielded fiber-optic guided FPVs immune to jamming and leaned on bulky EW trucks to rip holes in Ukrainian air. The birds responded like they always do, with hacks. Mobile radars to cue intercept drones against fiber-optic threats. Thermal eyes on their own counter-FPVs to swat enemy quadcopters in mid-air. The arms race is real, no advantage survives unchallenged. But the birds are dangerous precisely because they learn faster. So, pull back and look at the architecture Madyar built. Doctrine. Treat the front as a software-defined battle space. Pre-assigned kill boxes, codified triggers, trained to autopilot the kill chain. The human skill isn't pulling a trigger, it's designing the loop. Organization. Decentralized pods of 3 to 5 operators with their own scouts, loiterers, and finishers, supported by a shop that prints parts, a cell that tunes radios, and a logistics sergeant who thinks in battery chemistries. Each pod fights like an indie studio under a publisher's umbrella. Technology. Good enough airframes, great optics, better antennas, and a library of payloads that match targets the way munitions officers used to do for artillery. Add repeaters, tethered or airborne, to defeat curvature and foliage, and you've turned random farm fields into a grid of aerial ambushes. Training. Simulator hours, muscle memory maneuvers, night ops culture, and the humility to debrief failure. Operator burnout is real, so is pilot churn. The answer is a schoolhouse that teaches not just flying, but how to run a 2-minute kill pipeline under jamming and panic. Incentives. The controversial part, gamified points and public leaderboards, works because it aligns reality with reward. You hit more, you get more. It's brutal and clinical. War is both. Governance. A national app store for drones, formalized via programs like Brave One and its market, absorbs volunteer innovation, funds the winners, and deploys at scale. It's procurement as venture capital, not paperwork. The birds didn't invent every piece of this. What they did was knit it together and prove it could be run at tempo. That's why Kiev put Madyar in charge of scaling the model, to turn pockets of excellence into a lattice that blankets the front. His public targets, kill zones, casualty goals, a bias toward eliminating enemy drone operators first, telegraph a simple thesis. The side that owns the drone loop owns the initiative. There's a human texture to all this that gets lost in the tech talk. FPV pilots are 20-something gamers with call signs and terrible coffee, eyes red from hours in goggles, hands steady enough to thread a warhead into a vision slit at 70 miles per hour. They talk about their craft like snipers, wind, angle, slumps in the earth that steal speed. They share tricks, the split S into a trench, the blind drop through a smoke plume, the reverse bank to defeat a last-second jammer. And yes, they laugh sometimes. One bird pilot joked that the difference between him and a tank crewman is simple. He respawns after lunch. Black humor keeps your hands from shaking. Frontline troops feel the difference. In sectors where bird-style Overwatch is thick, platoon leaders move more boldly because they know the sky keeps score. You can tell too by the way Russians move. Tighter, shorter dashes, more smoke, more decoys, a growing reluctance to mass vehicles where a drone can see. It's a climate effect. Change the weather enough and behavior adapts. Of course, the genius has limits. Drones don't hold villages. They don't process prisoners or dig fighting positions. The birds are a scalpel and a hammer, not a flag. When the ground shifts, you still need sappers, armor, and artillery to exploit shock. Any Ukrainian commander will tell you that FPVs are a layer, not the whole cake. Even the drone line's proponents admit that its purpose is to bleed advances dry, not to recapture cities alone. That doesn't make it less revolutionary, it just defines its domain. There are ethics here you can't duck. A point system for killing feels dystopian until you remember the alternative. Undertrained formations starved of gear, while the Russians push with men and metal. Ukraine's logic is ruthless because war is. Tie resources to results, reward the most effective teams, and keep the army's spine intact under enormous pressure. The birds didn't invent that logic, they made it operational. And as with every tool in this war, Russia is copying its own version. The winner is whichever side moves its learning curve faster. Let's talk replication. Could another military lift the birds' playbook? Parts of it, yes. The cheap drone wave is already global. But the special sauce is less plastic than process. A culture that tolerates bottom-up hackery, a procurement system elastic enough to channel volunteer energy, and a commander willing to publish targets like a startup OKR and then live by them. That's hard to clone in rigid hierarchies. Ironically, the price of this agility is fragility. Burn out your operators, stall your supply of components, or let EW overmatch your links, and the loop stutters. The birds know that, which is why you see them pushing counter fiber optic intercepts now, rehearsing drone-on-drone duels, and lofting weird antennas into the sky. The arms race never rests. There's also the economics. A nation can build 1 million FPVs, sure, but can it train 1 million good pilots? Can it secure lenses, VTX modules, and batteries under sanctions? Can it push enough repeaters, spare frames, and warhead kits to the line to keep the loop green under artillery fire? Ukraine's answer has been to localize as much as possible and surge. Critics point out that drones alone won't stop a mass offensive. The birds would probably agree, and then ask calmly whether you'd like to advance through a 15-kilometer belt of invisible hornets. Most attackers pass on that offer. If there is a single image that captures why this strategy stunned the world, it's not a tank cooking off or a launcher unraveling. It's that clip of a little FPV speaking to a man who decides he'd rather live, then following it like a shepherded sheep. Control, influence, dominance at the scale of a human decision. For 100 years, we treated air power as something high and fast. The birds dragged it into the trench and taught it to whisper. That's the revolution. And here's the punchline only war can write. The more lethal the sky becomes, the more it insists on brains over brawn. The birds aren't terrifying because they're invulnerable. They're terrifying because they think like software engineers and fight like street racers. They will duct tape a thermal to a frame and fly it through a doorway if that's what works tonight. Then change the tape pattern tomorrow if a gust throws the center of mass. It looks messy from far away. Up close, it's a machine. What happens next? Expect the drone line to deepen, not vanish. Expect point systems to persist, with tweaks that prioritize kills that matter. Enemy drone operators first, logistics second, armor third. Because that's how you choke the enemy's loop. Expect the national production base to get stranger and smarter. More fiber optic birds for jammed sectors. More thermal guided warheads for night fights. More relays on balloons, trucks, and improvised towers. Expect the bird's DNA to be everywhere. Expect copycats. And expect the side that learns faster to keep the initiative, until the war's endgame resets the board again. And the data we started with, birds that hunt, wasn't just a metaphor, it was a warning. Madyar's flock showed that the cheapest thing on a battlefield can be the most decisive when it's flown with discipline, fed by data, and organized to improve every hour. That's why the world is stunned. That's why this looks like genius. Not because one unit found a trick shot, but because it found a way to make every shot a little smarter than the last. And in modern war, that's the only flight path that matters. Hit like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Bye for now.